Welcome to Energetics TV. 3 of our 7 nuclear power plants in Belgium are down at the moment, and at the end of August, Benedict published a blog giving his thoughts on this. Hi Benedict.
Hi Luca.
How did it get this far?
Oh, that's a long story. In the last decade, Belgium has failed to run a coherent energy policy. This is due to the fact that energy policy in Belgium is divided over different levels of decision making. You have the regional level and the federal level, and we have had many changes in government. And if you look at the situation, you can see that we haven't had any investments in large-scale power production in the last decade. We've seen some small-scale renewable and cogeneration being built up, but very limited investment in large-scale power production. And at this moment, it's a bit of a case of bad luck, because we have two of these nuclear power plants are down to a safety issue with small cracks in the nuclear vessels, and then on top of that, a third one is down, and it's alleged that this is due to sabotage. So it's a little bit of bad luck. But of course, because of this lack of building new capacity in Belgium, which is due to the lack of a coherent energy policy, we get ourselves in this situation now with a looming shortage for next winter.
But one of our political parties, N-VA, is suggesting enlarging the nuclear capacity. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, they're proposing to build a new nuclear power plant. First of all, this is not at all going to solve the problem for next winter, because if you look at the experience in Finland, France, UK, I think 10 years is a minimum to build a nuclear power plant, to plan and build a nuclear power plant in Europe. Secondly, well, I think the current situation in the Belgian nuclear power plants is showing that actually nuclear energy isn't necessarily such a good idea. It's always been said that nuclear energy is safe, reliable, and cheap. Well, first of all, safe. With
Fukushima?
Yes, Fukushima. On top of that, this whole thing with the small cracks in the nuclear vessel seems to be like a problem that scientists were not really aware that it could occur. In terms of reliability, what this current situation is showing is how vulnerable your electricity supply system becomes when you depend on a certain technology for such a large percentage as we do today with nuclear energy in Belgium. And on top of that, we are seeing today that to build a new nuclear power plant in the UK, they have to pay massive subsidies. So yes, nuclear energy is cheap in terms of marginal cost, but it's not cheap in terms of investment cost. So the question really is, are we going to spend the money from the taxpayers or the energy consumers on building a new nuclear power plant in the next years?
But do you think there are other solutions on the short term?
Well, on the short term, what we can all do is go and pray that it's not a cold winter. Because the problem really is, normally with the electricity that we can buy in France and in the Netherlands, and with the measures that the previous government has taken in terms of switching off large industrial consumers with reserve capacities of gas-fired power stations, we should get through it, and we should not have a very big problem with shortage of supply. But we get into trouble when it gets cold, because at that moment France starts to consume a lot more electricity because they have a lot of electrical heating, and we will see a reduction in export. We will probably see a reduction in exports from France, which will bring trouble. So we can pray that it's a mild winter. I think the government should also make a short-term plan on seeing, for example, how this kind of capability of switching off industrial companies from the grid, how it could be rapidly expanded. So they can look for how the measures that have been taken already can be exploited to its full extent, but there's quite limited possibilities for solving this in the short term.
But in case we have blackouts, how do you think large industrial consumers should prepare for this? The emergency plan is to switch off certain areas, and they are talking about rural areas, and trying to limit the economic damage of these electricity shortages by switching off areas where there is not a lot of industry.
and not a lot of economic activity. So the first thing that a company should do is follow up on whether its company is in such a rural area or not. There's been some names of towns and villages have been published in the papers, but they have been questioned again. So at this moment, it's still very unclear which places we are talking about. If you are in such a place, and even outside of it, because the risk of a real blackout has also heightened with this tight supply situation, I think you have to prepare a contingency plan, meaning that you, together with your technical people, you try to make an assessment of what the damage of a blackout for your company would be, and see how you can protect yourself against that, with the ultimate measure being the renting or buying of diesel groups, so engines with which you can produce electricity. But of course, the companies that are renting out or selling these diesel groups at these moments, they also know that there is a demand for this in Belgium, so prices are going up.
Yeah, it's logical.
It's logical. Of course, we are also seeing that the price for electricity in Belgium has already increased to 50 euros per megawatt hours on a forward basis. So that's another thing. Do you have to lock in yourself to protect against what could happen next winter? Because we don't know if we will really see a shortage. So also in terms of hedging policy, decisions need to be taken there about either protecting your budget or taking a little bit more risk.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for your information, Benedict.
You're welcome.